The morning sunlight slipped through the half-open curtains, painting soft, golden streaks across the worn-out sofa and the cluttered coffee table. The air was still, almost reverent, the kind of quiet that carries the weight of everything unsaid. And there she stood, barefoot on my old wooden floor, wearing nothing but my shirt, the same faded blue one I'd thrown over the chair the night before. Her eyes met mine, half ashamed, half broken, but all real. In that moment, I didn't see a stranger. I saw someone who'd been running for far too long and finally stopped. If you believe in kindness, in forgiveness, and in the power of second chances, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support keeps stories like this alive, reminding the world that compassion can still change lives. Her name was Nora Callan, though she hadn't spoken it aloud when I found her. It was a cool, quiet Tuesday morning when I saw her sitting on the edge of the pier, near Miller's Creek, arms wrapped around herself, shivering under the grey sky. I was heading to my workshop, a converted garage, where I built wooden furniture for local stores. She looked out of place, fragile, trembling, like a fallen leaf, unsure whether to sink or drift away. Her clothes were soaked, her hair clung to her face, and she didn't flinch when I asked if she was okay. She just whispered, "Do you have a phone?" That was it. I offered her my jacket, called a cab, and tried to help her stand, but she winced, limping. There was a bruise on her ankle, another near her collarbone, and a silence in her eyes that spoke louder than any cry. The cab never came. The driver refused after hearing she didn't have money. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I brought a stranger home. My small cabin wasn't much. A single room with a kitchen corner, a table covered in tools, and a couch that had seen better days. She stood by the door, hesitant, scanning every corner as if measuring whether it was safe to breathe here. I offered her a towel and pointed to the bathroom, promising I'd wait outside while she showered. She didn't answer. But 5 minutes later, I heard the water running, and for the first time, the silence in the cabin felt alive. When she came out, steam trailing behind her, she wasn't wearing her old torn sweater anymore. She had found my shirt on the chair and slipped it on. It hung loosely over her frame, the sleeves covering her hands. She looked both vulnerable and strangely peaceful, like someone who hadn't felt warm in years. "I'll wash your clothes," I said quietly, unsure what else to offer. She nodded and sat down, hugging her knees to her chest. For hours, neither of us spoke much. She ate the soup I'd made, slow and cautious, as if she wasn't sure she was allowed to finish it. I tried to focus on fixing a broken chair in the corner, pretending not to notice the quiet sniffles she tried to hide. But I noticed everything, the faint scars on her wrists, the way she flinched every time a car passed outside, the way she jumped when I accidentally dropped a spoon. When night fell, I offered her the bed and took the couch. She didn't argue. She didn't thank me either. But sometime around midnight, I woke up to the sound of muffled sobs. I didn't move. I just listened to her breaking in the dark, quietly as if she didn't want the world to hear. The next morning she was gone. My shirt was folded neatly on the bed. The window was open. For a second I felt something sharp twist inside me, disappointment, maybe even fear. But then I saw a note. Just one sentence, written in a shaky hand. "Thank you for not asking me who hurt me." Days passed. I went back to my work, tried to pretend it hadn't happened. But she stayed in my thoughts, the lost girl by the creek, the one who vanished wearing my shirt and left only silence behind. Then, one afternoon, I saw her again. She was standing in front of the bakery across the street, her hair tied back, holding a tray of muffins. The owner, Mrs. Langford, was showing her how to arrange them in the window. Nora looked lighter, still fragile but breathing. I crossed the street, unsure if she'd even remember me. But when she saw me, her eyes softened, and that was enough. "I'm working here now," she said softly, avoiding eye contact. They needed help. I needed something to do. I smiled and nodded. "You look better." She smiled back, faint but real. "I'm trying." Over the next few weeks, I stopped by the bakery more often than I needed to. Sometimes for coffee, sometimes just to check on her. She was opening up little by little, laughing once in a while, even telling Mrs. Langford about her love for painting. I didn't ask about her past, but one evening she told me anyway. She'd been married to a man who turned cruel the moment she stopped obeying his every command. He'd taken her money, her family, her sense of self-worth. And when she finally ran, barefoot and terrified, she ended up at that pier, believing she had nowhere left to go. I didn't think anyone would help me, she said, voice trembling. But then you did, and you didn't ask why I was broken. You just let me be human. That night I realized kindness doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it's just giving someone a place to rest without asking for their story. A month later, she painted again. I visited her tiny rented room above the bakery, where canvases leaned against the walls, splashed with color. They're not very good, she said shyly, but they were beautiful, chaotic yet hopeful, like her. She painted one for me. A simple image of a shirt hanging by the window, sunlight falling across it. It reminded me of the morning after, she said. The first time I felt safe. One rainy afternoon, Mrs. Langford had a heart attack. It was sudden, and Nora was the one who found her. She stayed by her side all the way to the hospital, holding her hand, whispering prayers. When I arrived, Nora was pacing in the corridor, tears in her eyes. I pulled her into a hug without thinking, and she broke down completely, not because of the fear, but because she said she finally realized she couldn't lose anyone else she loved. In that moment, something inside both of us shifted. It wasn't romance. Not yet. It was something deeper, the quiet recognition of two souls that had survived too much and still chose kindness anyway. Weeks later, Mrs. Langford recovered and decided to retire, leaving the bakery to Nora. You've got the heart for it, she said, pressing the keys into her trembling hands. I'll never forget that look on Nora's face. Disbelief, gratitude, and an almost childlike joy. The bakery flourished under her care. Locals adored her, not just for her pastries, but for her warmth. Every cup of coffee she handed out came with a smile that said, I know what it's like to need one small kindness. One morning, about 6 months after that day by the pier, I stopped by before opening hours. She was behind the counter, hair tied in a loose bun, flour dusting her cheeks. She looked up, and her face lit up like the sunrise. You're early, she teased. I wanted to show you something, I said, handing her a small wooden box I'd made. Inside was a simple silver pendant shaped like a shirt, tiny, delicate, and engraved with her name. She laughed softly, tears already gathering. You remembered. I never forgot, I said quietly. You were wearing my shirt. Now, I guess a part of it belongs to you. She put it on right there, and for a moment everything felt still. Just sunlight, laughter, and the sound of a heart finding its rhythm again. She leaned over the counter and whispered, You saved me, Mason. You didn't even know me, and you saved me. I shook my head. No, Nora, you saved yourself. I just opened the door. That day, as I walked out of the bakery, the bell chiming behind me, I realized something. Sometimes people who walk into our lives when we least expect them are the very reason we find our purpose again. She was wearing my shirt that first morning and nothing else. But today she's wearing courage, laughter, and a heart rebuilt from ashes. And maybe that's what love really looks like, not a fairy tale, but two people learning how to live again. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. It helps us spread true stories of kindness, healing, and hope to more hearts around the world. Special request, tell us in the comments, do you believe a single act of kindness can change someone's entire life? Your words might inspire someone who needs to hear them today.